Greetings, folks. My name is Jimmy Bashar with the ISO Stakeholder Affairs Group. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the latest EIM Settlements User Group. I am joined today by my colleagues, Virginia Thompson from Customer Service, Steve Casnelli from Customer Service, Heather Kelly from Settlements, James Lynn from Settlements, Rahul Kalaskar from Market Validation and Analysis, Uma Ramanathan from Market Settlements and Validation, Jeremy Malekos from our Market Settlements Design and Configuration Group, and then finally Yanni Chen from our Price Corrections and Settlements Group. And with that, it's a pleasure to welcome you to today's call, and I will hand it over to Steve to kick it off.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for your taking the time to join us this morning. I just have a couple quick items I just need to touch on. As always, I want to remind everyone that this call is sort of an invite only. It's designed for just our EIM organizations, and even within that, we ask that attorneys do not participate in this call. So if there are any attorneys, we ask that you log off and speak to your team afterwards. The same goes for a recording of this call. I haven't heard any beeps, so I don't think there's anybody on a recorded line right now, but just please keep that in mind that we don't want this on a recorded line. Jimmy, is this call being recorded?
We do have the recording settings on. However, we don't have to make that available, obviously, if you and the group decides that's the case.
Okay.
So just let the
we do make this available afterwards. I just want to make sure that we have it turned on.
Yes.
The next thing that I wanted to touch on is that I send these meeting invitations out to everyone who is on our contact list, listed as either a primary contact or a settlements contact. We then expect within your organization that you distribute these meeting invitations within your team. I often get requests to be added to this, and we don't actually maintain a separate distribution list just for this meeting. So I want to touch on this and just say, if the meeting is being forwarded to you, that means that you are simply not listed as a primary contact or specifically as a settlements contact. If you wish to be added as one of those contacts, again, please work within your organizations or any of the people that actually receives the request directly from me, and they will be able to sort of help out in updating our contact list that goes so that you will start receiving all sorts of different settlements-specific content through our distribution. So just keep that in mind. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on was the fact that about a month prior to each of these calls, I reach out to each organization and ask for suggested topics for these calls. The past 3 quarterly calls, we've had virtually no participation from anyone. So I really want to stress that when we reach out, these calls are for you. We want to make sure that we're addressing the topics that are most important to you. I really want to ask that when we do these for the next call, which is in September, please discuss these potential topics within your organization. Reach back out to us. Let us know what you want us to talk about, because, again, we're here to support you guys. But if we're not hearing anything from you, we don't know that we're doing what you guys need the most. So I just wanted to drive that home. So with that, those are the only things that I had. I just want to now just touch on the agenda of what we did develop for this discussion. The agenda up currently shows that we'll be touching on the market validation process, commitment cost change for the MSG resources, regulation energy, tag and meter submittals to the CAISO, CAISO process for meter estimation, current and the new process, as well as an open discussion of the asymmetrical wheel-through settlement. And with that said, we'll turn it over to Rahul for the first topic of the market validation process.
Thank you, Steve. Welcome, everyone, to this call. My name is Rahul Kalaskar. I am the manager for market validation and analysis. Uma asked me to provide some background about our market validation process. And the question that we received was, in general, how do we validate our markets, and if we get any tickets for price validation or for review for price correction, what is our process to provide a response. So I wanted to give a brief background about the group, my group, and point you to some documentation that you may already be familiar with, or you may want to read into various sections of the BPM, which I don't want to really cover in detail. But I just want to introduce the topic and then see if there are any questions. So, Jim, can we go to the next slide? So the market validation and analysis team, the primary responsibility is to do market validation for all of our markets. And so we do validation for day ahead and real time. And in the real time, we have 15-minute and a 5-minute market. And as part of our analysis, what we are usually looking for is any anomalous market outcomes. So our general metrics that we are looking into is we look at various LMPs. And if you look at LMPs, the primary focus generally is on ELAP LMPs, DLAP LMPs, and other like scheduling point tie LMPs. In addition to looking at just the broader LAP LMPs, we also monitor the shadow prices on various constraints that are enforced in the market, and we look for any unusual pattern in shadow price. And here, the shadow price generally refers to shadow price for a transmission constraint that's enforced in the market, any of the intertie constraints that can impact the market outcome. And in addition to looking at transmission constraint, of course, we are looking at the flex ramp prices. And all of these prices impact settlements. In addition to looking at these LMPs, we are also looking at anomalous dispatches, and we are looking for unusual pattern for resource commitment. So this is what we are looking at the market outcome in a broader sense. Now, when or what triggers us to do a price correction? So our tariff and BPM clearly states that the ISO can only do price correction for 3 reasons. We have a data input error or a data input failure. We have a software or a hardware failure, or we have inconsistencies in our tariff. All of this is available in Section 9 of the Market Operations BPM. But just to give you a background, a data input error is a scenario where, let's say, we were looking for a transmission limit in our system, and the transmission limit should have been 100 megawatts, but for some reason it shows up in our system at 10 megawatts. Now, because this is an incorrect limit on a transmission line and we see false congestion, those are the instances in which we would perform price correction. And the other scenario would be if we have any software defect that causes incorrect resource dispatches, or we have a price formation issue where, let's say, the underlying P-node prices are being calculated properly, but the aggregate price location calculation has an issue. So those are the general broad sense for when we would do a price correction. Jimmy, can we go to the next slide? So as I mentioned here, these are the 3 broad categories for which we do price corrections. And when we recommend these price corrections, we also notify the market right away. Those notifications are done through OASIS. And on Oasis, we have a section where we post our price correction messages. And that's generally done to give a heads up to the market that if we are doing price correction, and you are looking for any specific day, you can monitor any price correction messages, and that should give you an idea of which market, which trade date ISO is going to process price correction. I would like to stop here and see if there are any questions.
Thanks, Rahul. As a reminder, folks, please push #2 if you'd like to ask a question.
Not seeing any questions on the call line at this time.
Okay, then just one more item I would like to point to. So we do have several EIM entities submit tickets regarding price correction. And the way those city process works is if you submit any ticket and you flag it for price correction, then those tickets directly come to my group. And once we review that specific trade date and we complete our price correction or price review process, we will provide you a response stating that the ISO has completed validation, and if you are looking for price correction, then you can look at the price correction message on Oasis. And if you are specifically looking for which prices have changed after price correction, then those updates are provided directly through Oasis. And then as a general reminder, for ISO, for all real-time trade dates, ISO has 5 business days for processing price corrections. 5 business days to make a determination for price correction. And then if we have any issue in processing those corrections, then ISO can take up to 20 business days to process those. But anytime we go beyond the 5 business days, we will provide a message on Oasis which specifically mentions about the delay in processing price corrections. That's all I have. Can we do one last round for questions?
Sure. Thanks, Rahul. As a reminder, #2, folks, and we just ask that you please state your name and the company that you represent. Thanks.
Again, pressing #2 on your telephone keypad will indicate a question. Not seeing any questions at this time.
Okay, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Rahul. Uma, I think you might be on mute.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, good morning, everybody. I hope all of you guys staying safe. I'm going to walk you through a couple of subjects here: commitment cost change for MSG resources. Can we go to the next page, Jim? Okay. Recently, we have identified an exception scenario for MSG resources, and we thought that we want to share this with you. This is very important, and it's going to impact all your MSG resources. So the exception scenario case is when MSG resource is decommitted from a base higher configuration to a lower configuration in real time, the energy between the base schedule and real-time configuration Pmin is classified as real-time optimal energy if the resource has no derate, meaning there are no OMS cards. Through this expected energy calculation process, what we do is we allocate the real-time bit price to the real-time OE of the respective configuration. Settlements will then calculate the real-time bit cost as part of bit cost recovery settlement in charge code 66200. I also want to tell you guys, you all have received the Excel spreadsheet and a Word document. Could you please keep the Word document open so that you can understand what we are talking about here? Do you guys all have Word documents? Can I get a response from anybody?
Feel free to push #2 so that the event producer can identify your line.
Okay.
And feel free to write me in the chat as well. I don't see anyone having any issues, at least in the chat, Uma. So.
Oh, there is a chat. Okay.
We had one individual raise their hand.
Okay.
We have 2.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let's go ahead and continue it, Jim. Go to the next page. Okay, so we want to give you a little background on this subject. ISO identified in 2014 that the expected energy functionality was not allocating the real-time bid for the energy between the base schedule and the P-min of the base configuration for MSG resources when the resource is committed to move from a higher to a lower configuration in real time. Basically, the example is the base configuration is on a higher configuration, and we are committing to you to a lower configuration in real time. So if you look at the graph, you can see that example for no derate, you can see the portion of the Pmin and Pmax for the base configuration, and for the real-time configuration also Pmin and Pmax. So through that, we identified that the energy in the base configuration is not captured for purpose of bid cost recovery when the resource is committed to a lower configuration in real time. In this scenario, the portion of the real-time OE will be allocated with a null price or no bid. So if you look at the expected energy allocation detail reports in CMRI for real-time optimal energy for this, the prices will be null, meaning there is no bid. Okay. Go to the next page. Jim, thank you. Due to this, we were not accounting. So the deficiency is we were not accounting the correct real-time bid cost in BCR settlement, and the resources potentially received overpayment in real-time BCR settlement. By not accounting the real-time bid cost to the affected 5-minute intervals, the resource real-time bid cost will be greater than the revenue, which resulted in shortfall for the respective settlement interval. So the formula is like you all know that real-time bid cost minus real-time market revenue, and if there is a shortfall, the resource will get BCR. Okay, let's go to the next page, Jim. Thank you. So the current rules in expected energy for the exception scenario based on the current functionality, real-time bid price will be allocated only for the real-time active configuration. In order to properly account the real-time bid cost for the portion of no bid, we apply the real-time bid price of base configuration to calculate the real-time bid cost. Then we add this optimal energy bid cost to the negative real-time MLC to come up with the total real-time MLC. Go to the next page, Jim. In summary, when the MSG resources is decommitted from a higher configuration from base to a lower committed configuration in real time, the total MLC in real time will have 2 calculations. So what we do is for the negative we calculate the negative real time MLC, which is the real time committed configuration MLC minus maximum of your base configuration MLC or real time self-schedule configuration MLC. Plus, we calculate for the no bid portion optimal energy bid cost calculated for the portion of energy between the base schedule and the base configuration payment. We sum these two and we put this in the commitment cost as a negative MLC. So this information you will not be able to see in the allocation results, but if you look at the commitment cost detail report in CMRI, you will be able to see that, the commitment cost. Anybody has any questions so far?
Thanks, Uma. I did get one written question from Mary Jo Montoya. She's asking where the Word document's located, and I responded that it's on the Team SharePoint site, but feel free to clarify if that's not correct.
So this is, it was also included within the meeting invitation. It was sent out yesterday afternoon with the slide deck and the attachments.
Thanks, Steve.
Not seeing any questions on the call line either.
Okay. Can we go to the next page? Okay. So last year, in 2019, we identified that we are calculating the real-time bid cost by applying the real-time bid price when the resource has outage in real time on the base configuration. Through this research, we also identified that this rule was not applied to EIM MSG resources. So what we did is we have modified the rules for this exception scenario when the resource has outage in real time on the base configuration, and also we have applied the same rules for accounting the energy to EIM MSG resources as well. So we have changed these two things starting from last year. Next page, Jim. Modified rule to calculate the real-time bid cost when the base configuration has outage in real time will be as follows. For the no bid portion of the OE energy, we take that megawatt times the FMM LMP. So if there is, basically what we are saying here is the energy is classified as optimal energy, but the resource, the base configuration has submitted a OMS card, and that OMS card, we should not allocate the bid price, we should allocate the 15-minute LMP. That is the reason we modified this formula. We also applied the same rules in calculating the real-time bid cost for the exception scenario for EIM MSG resources as well. Both the above changes will be effective from trade date 10/1/2019. So for all your EIM MSG resources, we will be making this change on T+9-month recalculation settlement statement. Just want to let you know we have received already a couple of disputes, and we have provided the resolution, and we have also provided the BPM section so that you guys can review the rules. So if you go to your Word document, if you have it, you can see that the first example is the example with a no D rate. So the $30 bid optimal energy, if you look at the base configuration PMIN and PMAX, in this example it is 400 PMIN, PMAX is 500. This 100 megawatt, there is no bid. So we are going to calculate, we are going to take the bid price and we calculate the cost associated with it, and we sum it with the negative MLC. And the second example is a similar example with the D rate. What we do is if the base configuration has a D rate, if you have submitted an OMS card, that portion of the energy, what we do is we take the optimal energy times the 15-minute market LMP. In this example, I have provided $35. So we calculate for the OMS portion of it, we calculate with the LMP, and the LO section that you guys can see in your diagram, it will be calculated the OE megawatt with the real-time bid. And we add that with the negative MLC, and then you will be able to see this cost in the ISO commitment cost detail report in CMRI. Okay, Jim, can we go to the next page? So you guys all can review please review further details and market ops BPM. That is a link. Example for the MSG exception scenario for both real-time and D rate is in the attached Excel spreadsheet. I can walk you through the Excel spreadsheet if you guys have the Excel spreadsheet open. Can somebody respond? And do you guys have any questions so far?
Thanks, Uma. That's a good break for folks. If you have any questions, as a reminder, please push #2. As you stated, if someone could maybe acknowledge that you are able to have the Excel document as well, appreciate it.
Not seeing any hands raised on the call line currently.
Okay. So I can walk you through, thank you guys. I can walk you through the Excel spreadsheet very quickly, and this is very self-explanatory. After the meeting, you guys can take a look into it, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to your client rep, and we can have additional conference call. So this is one trade date, and I'm logging it for trade hour 11, MSG resources unit A, and the configuration C1 configuration PMIN is 250, PMAX is 360, C2 configuration is 400 and 500. Real-time bid of 2x1 is $30, and the market results base schedule was on 2x1 configuration, which is 500 megawatts. 15-minute schedule and the DOP in 5-minute dispatch, both 15-minute and 5-minute dispatch is at 280. FMM LMP is $35 for average for the hour. RTD LMP is $25. Expected energy code, the base energy, there is no problem. the RTPD OE C2 Pmin minus base schedule, that is the negative 100 megawatt. We use negative 100 megawatt times the $30 real-time bid of 2x1 configuration to come up with 3,000. So if you look at the commitment cost report in CMRI, for this example, you will be seeing $5,000. The $2,000 will be your negative MLC. You're moving from a higher to a lower configuration. And the real-time energy bid cost is for the portion of the OE with the no bid, $3,000. So we add these two, and if you look at the commitment cost detail report in CMRI, it will be reflected with $5,000 instead of $2,000 for this example. And the second example is example with the D rate. I'm using the same configuration Pmin and Pmax, but if you have noticed row number 7, it is highlighted. The Pmax is derated from 500 to 475. So the rest of the stuff, it's the same base schedule is at 500, 15-minute and 5-minute dispatch is at 280, and 15-minute LMP is $35. So if you go down and look at the blue section, that is the portion of the D rate, 25 megawatts. So what we do is this, we take this 25 megawatt times the 15-minute LMP to come up with the $875. And in the tan color one is the portion of OE with the no bid. There is no outage, but it's not in an active configuration. So we need to take the C2 Pmin minus C2 Pmax. In this example, it is negative 75. We apply the real-time configuration bid of $30 to come up with a 2,250. So if you review 22, row number 22 through 26, you can see that real-time MLC, row number 23, is negative MLC of 2,000. Real-time energy bid cost for the outage portion, it is $875. And the optimal energy with no bid is 2,250. So if you look at the commitment cost report, commitment cost details report in CMRI, for this example, you will be seeing the negative MLC of 5,125. I hope this example and the Word document helps. Do you guys have any questions? If I'm talking too fast, please let me know, because I'm very passionate about this subject, so I may talk fast.
Again, pressing #2 on your telephone keypad will indicate a question, #2. Not seeing any questions on the call line currently.
Uma, do you think it would be helpful to show the Excel document? Because I'm not seeing any comments, and Mary Jo, again, is sort of wanting that to be displayed as well. I don't know if it would be helpful to run through it maybe. I'm happy to pull it up, but I'm just not sure if it would, since you already did kind of walk through it.
Probably this is a very simple example that may be the reason they don't have an issue, but we can walk through the example. If you can open the Excel spreadsheet, is it possible?
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I think you should be able to see it now, correct?
Yeah, I can see it. Thank you. So I hope everybody can see it. Yeah, make it as a page. Yeah, okay. That is enough.
Okay.
Hi, guys. Everybody, I hope everybody can see it. So this is the example. Okay. No problem, Mary Jo. So this is the example that we were talking about. The first tab, they do not have any outage. The configuration base schedule was on 2x1 at 500, and the 15-minute dispatch and the 5-minute dispatch, you can see row number 11 and 12. The schedule is 280, which is on the lower configuration, C1 configuration, and the SMM LMP average for the hour is $35. RTD LMP average for the hour is $25. So these are the expected energy code for this trade hour. Base energy will be 500, and RTPD OE That will be C2P min minus the base schedule, that is a negative 100 megawatt with no bid because this is not an active configuration. This configuration is higher configuration. So we are calculating currently with no bid or null bid. For this portion of the 15-minute OE, we will use the RTPD bid of the base configuration. So if you take the RTPD real-time bid, $30 times 100, it's going to be $3,000. And this dollar will be added to the negative MLC in settlements documentation. And this will be in the ISO commitment cost detail report in CMRI rather than in the expected energy allocation reports. And the row number 18 is C1P max minus C2P min. As you, all of you guys know that it's a negative 40. There will be no bid for that, but the cost, bid cost, will be the portion of the real-time negative MLC for that portion. So we do not need to replace with any bid price for this portion. It will be covered with that negative 2,000, row number 22 for this portion. And the row number 19 is RTD OE, which is the DOP minus C1P max. In this example, it is negative 80 megawatt for the hour. And we do have a bid price of $10. So we do not need to include that portion into the commitment cost. So if you go through row number 22, 23, row number 22 is we are committing to a lower configuration. So the 2,000 is for that negative 40 megawatt, equivalent to that cost. And the real-time energy bid cost, that is the one we are adding negative 100 times $30, 3,000. So the real-time portion of the minimum load cost in the CMRI report is going to be negative 5,000. In this case, there is no D rate. Do you guys have any questions?
Not seeing any questions at this time. Again, pressing pound 2 on your telephone keypad. Still no questions.
Okay. Thank you. Can we go to the next tab again, Jim? Thank you. Can you make it a little bit big? Zoom? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jim. So this is the second example that we talked about it. There is, in this example, there is a D rate. So if you go up, can we go up a little bit, Jim? Okay, you guys can see here. Yeah, that's fine. Row number 7, C2 configuration, 400 is the PMIN. PMAX in the master file is 500, but it is derated to 475. So if you're using the same example, if you look at 17, row number 17, the portion between the base schedule is 500, from 500 to 475, the megawatt is negative 25, and the price will be null. Since they have a D rate, they have submitted an OMS card, we are going to use 15-minute LMP to calculate the cost for this. For this portion of the FMMOE, we will use the RTPD LMP since this portion of the energy is considered as a slick energy. This amount, $875, will be added to the negative MLC in settlements documents. So if you go to row number 18, that is the portion of the no bid because your C2P min minus C2P max is negative 75. And for this negative 75, we include the bid price of the C2 configuration to calculate the cost, and we calculated $2,250 in this example. So if you guys can review 23, 24, 25 for the total MLC. Again, the $2,000 is for the negative 40 because we are committing to a lower configuration. That is your minimum load cost, C1 minus C2 MLC. And the real-time energy bid cost, the blue one, is the portion of the OMS. Whenever there is a D rate, we include that portion of the OE times the FMMLMP. And the real-time energy bid cost is, again, for the portion of the OE with no bid, we will use that portion with the real-time base C2 bid price for that negative 75 megawatt, 2,250. So total negative MLC for this hour will be 5,125, and you will be able to see this information in the ISO commitment cost detail report in CMRI, and it will not be in the expected energy allocation details report. Thank you, Jim. Do you guys have any questions? Anybody have any questions?
No questions on the call line currently.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Let's go to the next subject. Okay. We're going to talk about the regulation energy settlement. We have shared this presentation at the previous call in March, but we have identified an issue, so we thought that we are going to keep the same slides, and we are going to review only the issue and the resolution portion of the regulation energy settlement. Jim, can we go back to the next page? So hopefully you guys all remember this. We have, as part of the EIM enhancements in 2019, we have implemented the regulation energy calculations and settlements starting from trade date 11/13/2019. In high level, this impacts two charge codes, 64700, which is real-time instructed imbalance energy, and 64750, which is a real-time uninstructed imbalance energy. Go to the next page, Jen. And we do ISO calculate the EIM resource deviation within the resource regulation or available balancing capacity range as instructed regulation energy. As part of the base schedule submission, EIM entities identify what portion of ABC is designated for regulation up and regulation down, and ISO settlements will calculate the regulation energy. I'm just going to review it quickly with you guys, the slides. You guys are very familiar with this. Jim, can we go next page? Regulation energy settlement is considered as instructed imbalance energy. Similar to ISO resources, regulation energy is settled at the respective RTD LMP in 64700 charge code. Regulation energy we also included as part of the uninstructed imbalance energy charge code. So UIE is high level UIE is calculated as meter minus total expected energy minus regulation energy. To the next page. This is again as an example, quick example. We have provided this information. You guys can take a look into that. I'm going to skip to explain the example. And can we skip a couple of pages, Jim? Next one. Yeah, here. Go to the previous page, 22nd. Thank you. Yeah, go to the 23rd. Thank you. So we have identified one of the EIM entities submitted dispute. Thank you very much. We just want to talk to you guys about this issue and the resolution of regulation energy settlement identified in March 2020. We identified the following two issues through disputes. When the EIM resource submitting null regulation up and regulation down base schedule submission in T-75, T-55, and T-40, settlements was using the day-ahead internal base schedule from trade date T-1D to calculate the regulation energy. Thus, calculation of regulation energy was incorrect. Example is resource A has submitted reg down ABC quantity at T-1D for 20 megawatts. In real time, the resource has no submission of ABC. To calculate regulation energy, we were using 20 megawatts from T-1D, which was incorrect. That was defined for some other initiative. It is not for the regulation energy. So we identified the issue and we are going to fix it. Let's go through the second issue, then we can ask for questions. Can we go to the next page, Chip? The second issue was, it's a similar, but this one is when the EIM resource submitting null regulation up and regulation down base schedule submission in T-40, settlements was using the T-55 or T-75 regulation up and regulation down schedules, which resulted in incorrect calculation of regulation energy. So in this example, resource A has submitted reg down ABC quantity at T-D for 20 megawatts. In real time, resource A submitted T-75 for 20 megawatts and null values for both T-55 and T-40. To calculate the regulation energy, we were using 20 megawatts from T-75. So the difference between this issue and the previous issue was, in the previous issue, there was no real-time submission. It was null. In this example, in real time, the resource did submit 20 megawatts on T-75, but it was null for T-55 and T-40. So both of these issues are going to, we have discussed this internally, and we have modified to resettle all the regulation energy starting from 11/13/2019. 11/13/2019. Can we go to the next page? So for both issues, we should have used T-40 binding schedule of 0 megawatt. Based on this, the correct regulation energy should have been 0 megawatt. ISO is planning to change the mapping issue, and the fix will be applied with an effective date of 11/13/2019. The fix will calculate the correct regulation energy, and ISO will process making the corrections on the respective T+9 month recalculation settlement statements. Do you guys have any questions regarding this issue?
We've got 3 questions on the call line. Going with the first caller, please state your name, location, or excuse me, name, company, and your question. Please go ahead.
Hey, Uma, it's Susie Niederkorn with EIM Energy. So with the regulation settlement, so for the EM entities, not PRSCs, so if we don't enter any of the reg up, reg downs, we shouldn't be seeing any of regulation settlements, right?
So not submitting meaning any time frame, right? If you have not submitted anything for T-75, T-55,
we don't submit anything
40,
for non-participating resources.
For it. Yes and no. So you submit the energy also, right, as part of the base submission. You submit
we do submit energies, but not reg up, reg down.
But right. So let's take a couple of examples. So if you're submitting a, so let's, yeah, James, go ahead.
It's pretty straightforward. Yes, Susie, if you have not submitted any regulation up or regulation down awards as part of your ABC capacity, you will not receive any regulation energy settlement.
So if looking at the page 22, because you have the examples on the dollar amount, so could you move back to the page 22?
Okay, 1 second, Susie.
So you have that UIE settled as $94.18. So if we don't settle for, if we don't have any non-participating resources with the reg up, reg downs, we should be just saying $18 in 647.50 versus saying if we have reg up, reg downs, we will be saying that the parcel 6584 and $28 in the 6700, right? So the dollar amount wouldn't be changed, it just becomes a separate. So we don't. Yeah, I want to make sure when I do the validation process, I know where to look for, and then also just the information. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
That is correct, Susie. So
okay.
Yeah, that is correct. So if there is no regulation energy, the UIE will be meter minus total expected energy, okay? But if there is regulation energy, then the UIE will be reduced. It will be compensated in 2 different charge codes, 64700 and 64750.
Yes. And then the last time I asked you guys for the reg up, reg down schedules, you guys still do not have any posted on the OASIS, right?
Say that again.
For the reg up,
the regulation energy
schedules, they are not posted to the public.
Okay. It is there in CMRI. If you look at your base submission, you will be able to see energy, regulation up, regulation down, everything in CMRI.
Okay.
So, Susie,
the regulation yeah.
Yeah. So, Susie, go ahead. Susie, you are correct that we don't post it on OASIS because this is not an award that our market has solved. This is basically the EIM entity notifying us of capacity that they're reserving for the various reasons. So we do not publish that to ACES. We include it in your base schedule report that's on CMI.
Yeah.
Okay. James, just since you're on the phone, so that for the regulation settlement only apply to the participating resources, right? I don't see the point for the non-participating resources because the non-participating resources is not on the AGC, doesn't control the flow. So am I correct, or there's another, that's the implications on this?
That is dependent upon how each EIM entity uses their resources or how that BA uses their resources. If they want to put the ABC on all their participating resources, yes, you are correct. But we do have some entities that do reserve it on both the non-participating and the participating. If they put it on the non-participating and they use the non-participating resource for solely regulation purposes, that's why we are calculation regulation energy for them as well. So it all depends upon how that BAA decides to use its fleet.
That makes sense. Hey, thank you so much, guys.
Okay. So one more time, Susie, just a summary. The regulation energy quantity, you will not be able to see it in anywhere. We do not publish it. Settlements calculated, and you'll be able to see it in the bill determinant. But the regulation energy submissions will be posted in CMRI. Just want to do the clarification. Okay?
We do have another question on the call line.
Go ahead.
Next caller, please state your name and company and your question.
Yes, hi, this is Sandra Morris with Smart & Bank. Just a quick question on this. This is only involving EIM entities. This doesn't affect the reg up for MRTU resources, is that right?
That is correct, Sandra.
Okay, thank you.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Uma.
No problem. Do you guys have any other questions? Anybody else?
No other questions at this time.
Okay. Can we go to the next page? So let's talk about this topic. Again, you guys are all familiar with this tag and meter submittal to ISO. We are just going to reiterate to everybody since we have new EIM entities and we are seeing some issues in the submission of the EIM interchange payload. Just want to review it as a refresher. Jim, thank you. So the tag and meter submittal to ISO, EIM real-time interchange after the fact scheduled payload, that is the name of the payload, and ISO settlements is expecting to receive the tag quantity in the above payload for the following resources: system resources, imports and exports, I-ties and E-ties, and transaction ID imports and export resources, dynamic or tied-in resources modeled as regular generators. All of them needs to be submitted in the above payload. We have been seeing that some EIM entities are not submitting complete payload in March 2020. Also, we encountered in June 2020 last week. So the submitted payloads do not contain all trade hours, or in some cases, we are missing some resources as well. So we are requesting you guys to please submit the payload for all trade hours and all resources in a timely manner so that we can process settlement statements. If we receive any disputes on this, we have to deny the dispute because based on your submissions, we are calculating the instructed and uninstructed imbalance energy charge codes. So if we do not get it, we have to, and the people have, some of the entities have been submitting disputes and we have been denying it. So in order to prevent these cases, please submit the payload for all trade hours and all resources in a timely manner. Okay, let's go to the next page. Jim, thank you. And EIM real-time interchange after the fact scheduled payload also contains ETSR resources. If the ETSR is between EIM entities, the tagging entity should provide the information through the above payload. And please note that if the ETSR is between EIM entity and ISO, ISO will handle the tagging information. EIM entities should not include the values in the above payload. Jim, next page. And MRIS stands for Market Results Interface Settlements. ISO settlements is expecting to receive the metadata for the following resources in MRIS for regular generators, for loads, and pseudo-ties. ISO MRIS is not expecting metadata for tie-gen resources. If submitted accidentally, system will reject it. I just want to refresh all of you guys this. Do you guys have any questions?
We have 2 questions on the call line. Please go ahead.
Hi, Uma. It's Sandra from Smut and Bank again. This is maybe slightly off topic, but I've always wondered, for metering data, I know that there's the T plus 48B cutoff. What about for tag information? Is it the same?
Yes. Sandra, if you wait for a few minutes, I'm going to go through that. Do you want to wait for that?
Okay. Absolutely.
I have provided
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
We have included that. Yeah, we have included that portion. Yep.
And we do have another caller with a question. Please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hey, Uma, Susie Niederkorn with EIM Energy. So in your page 28, you're specifically saying that the missing payload in March. So is that a specific reason? Is that was that the entities were having the issues with their software, or they were interfacing issues between CAISO and the entities? So
you see, my understanding is that. So my understanding is we did the research. The issue seems to be at their end. While submitting the payload, all of the resources are not getting included. And in some cases, they included only the first trade hour. 23 hours, there were no data. So the issue is with the payload, not at our end.
So for all the entities, or there's the
No. No, it's a specific entity. It's not for all EIM entities.
And then have you been seeing those 3 categories, like the system resources, transaction IDs, and dynamics? Which one for entities having the most issues? I would think that dynamics, right? Because of dynamics submitted by the different entities, other than the entities incurring those dynamics, right? Because that's all of our
issues that we have. The issues that we have seen are for imports and exports, system resources, and transaction ID imports and exports, not for dynamics.
Okay. I think we should be okay in the system and transaction IDs. Just dynamics, it's not submitted by us, so that's why I thought it was maybe by the other entities. Hey, thank you, Uma.
So what do you mean? No problem. What do you mean by that you're not submitting the tie-in resources?
No, I mean that
same payload though, right?
The dynamics that for the ETSRs, what I'm saying, like a ATS submits for us.
Yeah.
So that's why
that is fine.
Sometimes if they don't submit or missubmitted, it would have been missing the information. So.
That is right. So the page 28 is only talking about imports and exports and transaction IDs and dynamic tie-ins. If you look at page 29, that is ETSR. So ETSR, everybody understands that, so it's a different, right? So it's slightly different. Just want to let you know.
Thank you.
No problem, Susie.
We do have another question. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Jennifer Gerard with Idaho Power. Can you guys hear me?
Hi, Jennifer. Yes.
Hi. How long do you guys keep your payloads from between you and the vendors? Do you guys keep those for a certain period of time? Is it through the last dispute deadline? I mean, how long do you guys keep those? Do you know?
So when we receive the payload, we immediately map it. And so we will have that all the payloads, like a previous version, we keep it. But I did not understand your question. Can you go ahead one more time? Sorry. So
I guess
you have the payload.
So I can help you with this one if you want. This is James. So Jennifer, what we do is when we receive the payloads, we map it to staging tables based on our FERC retention policy. We keep that information at least up to 3 years, if not beyond. Once we hit the 3-year period, we will archive it off. And then I believe we have another retention policy for another 7 years after that. I think it's currently the total retention period for us is a 10-year period, just in case FERC comes back and wants us to rerun a trade period. But the current retention period aligns with our settlement statements. So currently it's 3 years. With the new settlement timeline, we'll maintain it for 2 years before we archive it off.
Okay, thank you. That helps. So when you guys, yes, that does. So when you guys are getting disputes related to questions about tags, submittals that come through those payloads, are you guys going back to that table to verify that those tags were in fact submitted, or are you going to the mapping kind of? I guess I'm just wondering, because sometimes we have trouble just getting the payload after a certain retention period with our vendor to kind of research. So I wasn't sure if you guys are also using that same source when you're researching disputes.
Okay, that's a good question, Jennifer. So what happened in March and June cases is we received the payload on T+3, and there is a settlements validation team. They validated it, and they did not see a couple of resources. They raised it to the client rep quick, and the client rep contacted the EIM entity, and EIM entity did submit the revised payloads, and we still validated it. We did not see it, but we could not wait, right, because the time is passing. T+8, we have to calculate it for T+12B settlement statement. So we published the T+12B settlement statement. We received the dispute. We went back and reviewed all the payload received in the past couple of times for this case, and we still did not see the resources. So we do validate the payload that is coming into our staging tables. And we validated the previous version, current version. We confirmed it double time, and we talked to the validation team, and then we have to then deny the dispute. We do not have it. So if we have it, as you know, we will include in the mapping and settlements, as well as we publish it in CMRI. CMRI, we post the ATF schedules, all your imports and exports specific to the SCs. And the market participants were not able to see it there. So if it is not in the payload, it will not be in settlements. It will also not be in CMRI. Does that help?
Yeah, okay. That does. I mean, I think it was more, not maybe specific to this particular issue, but it was more just kind of a general thought. I mean, a lot of times the questions we have are more around the 15-minute market and the 3-hour payloads that are going in. And so it's sometimes hard to kind of troubleshoot whether it's a potential vendor issue or whether it's something we need to kind of discuss with CAISO. And often it's hard to really find out whether or not we need to kind of work with our vendor or not. So that was kind of more my question. I just wanted to make sure that CAISO is going back to the payloads when they're researching those to confirm what they received. So, all right. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Jennifer, isn't it 2 different payloads, though? The 15-minute market is a real-time interchange schedule payload, RTSI payload, real-time schedule interchange payload. This is after the fact payload. So this is the ATS 5 minutes after the fact payload. So 2 payloads are different. One is going into the market, one is coming for settlements after the fact. So
Uma, they're the same payload. There is an indicator within the payload that separates them from pre-hour to after-the-fact tags. So
after the fact. Oh.
Yeah, the payload itself name is exactly the same. There is a market indicator. I can't remember exactly what the column is. One says pre-hour, and that one is used by the market, and then the after-the-fact is used by settlements. The market does not have necessarily the same retention policy as settlements does, because it doesn't have to look back to a 3-year period. But I think their retention policy is 90 days. I'd have to check.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. That's correct. That is very good. Thank you very much. That's only one payload. It's a 2 different things. But Jennifer, you can probably add some kind of validation at your end when you're submitting it. Probably make sure that if there are 100 resources, or all 100 resources are there, are we submitting for all 24 hours? Some kind of validation. If you guys can add it, it will help probably. Just a thought.
So for us, it's not normally that we're missing a resource or missing an hour. It's usually a question around when CAISO is seeing maybe a late tag and the timing around that. So it's mostly just questions around the quantity value that's being settled in the 15-minute market. So it's not usually, we do have some validations that we use to make sure that everything's going to the market. So I don't think that's really a concern, but like I said, it's more so some of these late tags and the timing of which intervals they hit into the market.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Timing is, makes sense. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Do you guys have any other questions? Anybody else?
No other questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Jim, can we go to the next page? So we're going to talk here about the meter estimation. Again, we have shared this information before, so we are just going to show you the current and the new timeline. Next page, Jim.
Sorry to interrupt. It looks like we do have one other question that just came in.
Sure. Go ahead.
Hi, Uma, James. It's Larissa from Puget. I actually have a question regarding that previous slide that you have. So if for some reason after the fact hasn't reached CAISO, why want you guys to issue imbalance on that tie at T+12 so that it would send a signal to us that, oh, okay, there's a problem, we need to follow up. Can you, if you said it, I'm sorry, I missed it, can you repeat one more time? Because we had an example where actually we didn't realize this until it was T+55, and we didn't see any indication of the problem in our system. So we actually have a couple of tickets right now to research on this. But I just want to understand why we didn't see that imbalance in T+12, because it would give us more time to kind of, or it would make us much faster to jump on this and start researching.
Okay, so that's a good question, and you were correctly, proper timing. So you know that, right? We do estimate the meter data on T+3. So T+3, there is no, we do not even look at the payload. T+12, if we do not get the data, we estimate the meter. We use the total expected energy as a meter value, so you will not be able to see any deviation on T+12 base settlement statement. So until T+55 only, we will be able to see this issue. However, when we are not receiving the payload, currently we have a process, actually as part of customer service we are doing this. When we do not receive the resources in the payload, we always, quickly send an email to the client reps, and Steve Casnelli has been doing a great job. He reached out to the specific entities, and he shared that information with you guys soon. And he asked a couple of times, he encouraged you guys to resubmit it, and 2 of the market participants did resubmit the payloads. one market participant, the revisal, some revision of, the second payload contained the resources, which was good, but the other entity resubmitted it, still those resources were missed. So we will give you some time because we have very narrow window between T plus 8B and T plus 12B. We have to calculate the settlement statement. So we reach out to them, and when customer service reach out to you guys, if you guys immediately resubmit the payload, and if we have the values, we will include it. But if we don't have the time to wait, we use the estimation, meter estimation, by using the total expected energy. That is the reason you are not seeing the deviation on T plus 12B statement. But there is an email thread, so the customer service is reaching out to each of you guys. If whenever you guys are missing the payload, like, not including the resources or not including all trade hours, we have been doing that.
This is James. To help.
Great, but yeah, go ahead, James.
Go ahead. Say that again.
Something that you could use to help identify this is that we have a bill determinant that shows whether or not meter data and tagging data was estimated or not. If you look at that bill determinant on the T12 statement and see that it's been estimated, that will give you an indication that we have not received it. The reason why we do the estimation all the way to T55 was this is an enhancement we put in several years ago. There's a couple reasons behind it, but it was designed to give participants more time to check out their tag, to do the shaping that was necessary in order to provide it by our final settlement statement.
Yeah, I have to.
Does it help?
Because no, it's not helping. Yeah. I mean, I hear you, but it's not helping yet. I mean, there's again specific examples, and I'm not sure if that's what you guys refer to us if we didn't submit for March, but it's really there was no any indication that we missed it because we submit on a daily basis and then we resubmit it and again. So pretty good at that. It's just again we need to dig a little bit more on this example. I have internal tickets now. I have CD with you, but I think we will follow up on that.
Okay. I did send you an email as well. I did send you an email as well, so review that. And like James pointed out, there is a bill determinant. You can look into it. Otherwise, guess what? Look at your total expected energy bill determinant. If your meter value is equal to total expected energy blindly, you can say that we are using the estimation. So, but, I understand, we understand your concerns, I have sent an email.
I'll reach out to you either later this week or next week, and we'll talk some more about it. Sound great?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both.
No problem. No problem.
No other questions at this time.
Okay. Thank you. So this is the current settlements timeline, the meter estimation, T plus 3B, like we just talked about it. We use the meter estimation on T plus 3B and T plus 8B. T plus 8B, we will wait for, if we have the payload, we will use it. If we do not have the meter data, we estimate it. And then the meter data submission is on T plus 48B, next one, for T plus 55B settlement statement. And the last meter submittal will be on T plus 8 month, for T plus 9 month. Okay? And Jim, can we change it? Change the slide? And we're not going to talk about it. We have shared these things before. So can we skip this page, Jim? This one, next one. Also skip. Next one also skip. Okay, so this is a new timeline. We just want to quickly talk to you guys about this meter estimation. Market settlements timeline effective trade date is 1/1/2021. And the required statements are going to be T plus 9B initial and T plus 70B recalculation settlement statement. And the optional settlement statements are T plus 11 month, T plus 21 month, and T plus 24 month. It's the MSCT initiative page. We have provided you the link. If you want to get more information, please review the link, and you guys can submit any questions through city tickets. Go to the next slide. And this is a new timeline for settlements timeline for next year. The metadata submission, it is going to be T+7B by 10 a.m., which will go into then the next statement is, so that for T+9B, we have to get the metadata by T+7B 10 a.m. If we get the metadata, we use the metadata on T+9B settlement statement. If we do not get it, we use the meter estimation. Then the next metadata submission is on T+52B for T+70B recalculation settlement statement. The next one is 214B. After that, there will be no other meter submission. So it's the same metadata submission timeline 3 times for current and for the new initiative also. Okay, just go to the next page. So on T+9B settlement statement, we are going to use total expected energy to estimate metadata. Similarly as currently what we are doing now for all generators, dynamic, and all static resources. And for load schedules, we use the load schedules to estimate load resources, and we use the RTD schedules to estimate ETSR resources. Go to the next page, Jim. Next page. So on T+9B, just I mentioned, if you receive the metadata for generators, loads, and the ATF tags, we are going to use the submittal metadata and the tag data. We will not use estimation. But if we do not get the metadata, if we do not get the payloads, then we have to use the estimation metadata for all generators, loads, and the system resources. And when we use meter estimation, you all are aware of it. 64750 will be 0, and operational adjustment will also be 0. Next page. On T+70B settlement statement, if ISO did not receive the meter or tag quantities on T+70B, the value will be set to 0, causing the meter deviation in 64750 for generators and loads, you can see it. And for the operational adjustments, you guys can see it in 64700 charge code. Do you guys have any questions? Sandra, does this help?
No questions at this time.
Okay, let's go to the next. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, guys. And James is going to talk about the asymmetrical wheel-through settlement.
We do now have a question on the call line. Please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Caller, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. This is Sandra from Smith and Baker.
Oh, that's okay.
Do you guys know off the top of your head what that billing determinant is that shows if the metadata was estimated? Is that like in one of the energy charge codes? Or?
Yes, I will go ahead and provide that after the meeting to Steve Casnelli. I can send it to him, and he can share it with all of you guys.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
It's in one of the pre-calc charge codes, but it's the resource meter estimation flag. I think estimation is abbreviated some way, but yeah, we'll provide it for you.
Okay, thanks, James. Appreciate that. That's all I had.
Okay,
all right, everybody.
Yep, go ahead, James.
No, go ahead, Wilma.
No problem. No, I'm done. I just want to tell you that if you guys have any questions, they can submit an INS ticket. That's all.
Okay. I know you guys are probably pretty tired of the asymmetric wheeling discussions. I was going to leave this strictly as an open question-answer situation. However, based on the EIM quarterly meeting, we actually did get some questions. So I put together a bunch of slides last night to try to answer those questions and see if there's any additional questions after that. I'm going to go through these relatively quickly, I provided some background slides and some supporting slides to each of my answers, but since we only have about 12 minutes left, I'm going to have to go through relatively quickly. So, why is it not advancing?
Please try either the page up or down keys or the arrow keys, or bringing your cursor to the left of the screen. You'll be able to scroll that way as well. There you go.
Okay, I'll have to do it that way. All right, so after the EIM quarterly meeting, Arizona and Idaho had some questions regarding the asymmetric wheeling. Specifically, Arizona provided a series of questions. I think everybody probably has, but I haven't gotten all the questions sent to me. First one was, how do you validate the power balance constraints? Where are these prices located? All the pricing associated with power balance constraint, intertie congestion, and physical congestion are posted on OASIS in relationship to the locational marginal prices for the ELAP, the scheduling point tie pricing, the nomogram branch group shadow prices, the intertie constraint shadow prices, scheduling constraint shadow prices. One of the things that you can use is when the ELAP price is up around $1,000 or below a negative 150, that means that balancing authority area has had a power balance constraint violation. So these are some of the reports you can look at so you can see what is the LNP for that particular location and what is the constraints associated with it and the congestion costs associated with it. Now the question came is, are we going to break this pricing down, these reports down into the power balance constraint violation, intertie, and physical? The answer is no. At this point, we are not going to be breaking them down, and we are also not going to be publishing out the marginal cost of congestion breakdown prices on OASIS. Those are going to be maintained in settlements because it's only used for the real-time congestion offset calculation and not necessarily the settlement of the energy itself. The next question was related to, again, where do we find the power balance constraint violations? This is the ELAP pricing. There was questions on where to find the shift factors. Well, the shift factors are published on the MTP portal. We do post it for HASP and RTD. But the power balance constraint violation does not impact the shift factors. The shift factors will apply to the power balance constraint violation or constraint in order to price each node accordingly. So there is no impact. We don't change the shift factors if there is a power balance constraint issue. Now the next question was, there was significant changes in both energy settlement. And there was questions on the sub-allocation to transmission customers. I can't answer how you guys do your sub-allocation. My anticipation, even though that we are settling it, the base ETSRs, or proposing to settle base ETSRs, I would assume that your cost causation would say your allocation would not change. But again, that is something that each EIM entity has to review and make a determination on. It's not the ISO's position to tell you how to allocate that to your transmission customers. The next one, we're going to go. I'm going to open up real quickly if you have any questions. My answers to these questions real quickly.
Not seeing any questions at this time.
Okay. So in the previous examples we've gone through, we have talked about the short-term solution, and I gave a short-term solution example where I took a really bad day where I had a bunch of power balance constraint issue violations and how they settled out. Once I converted all the base ETSRs to settle, and then once I changed it to a scheduling point tie pricing. From there, I had a series of questions related to that. First question was, why was there such a large increase in the real-time congestion allocation? Well, because the real-time congestion is where the currently where the power balance constraint price is materializing. If we're using a financial node or the financial value location, you are now shifting a portion of that congestion cost from one balancing authority area into another because you're applying a 50-50 pricing. So that when we do the settlement of that base ETSR, which is an import in one balancing authority area and an export from another, that export and import pricing now incorporates 50% of the balancing authority area which had a power balance constraint violation. So that means when I do my calculations of my total congestion for a balancing authority area and then distribute it down to each balancing authority area using the real-time congestion offset, and we use the breakdown prices to do that, you are now going to see a big shift in how, one, the LMP settlement of those resources are for each balancing authority area, because now you are applying the actual scheduling point tie price and not a 50-50 price. And then when it comes to the total congestion for a balancing authority area and the congestion allocation, they're now isolated to the appropriate balancing authority area. So you're going to see an increase in your instructed imbalance energy settlement and increase, decrease in your real-time congestion offset depending upon the amount of congestion and the direction of the energy for that specific location. A follow-up to that question was, why didn't it go to real-time imbalance energy offset? And that's because this particular issue is strictly isolated to the congestion. We do calculate the total congestion when we determine what's left for the real-time imbalance energy offset, and what that total marginal cost congestion is. This is what I've already allocated out. I subtract that off my neutrality, say now this is what, and my same with the marginal loss, this is what's left to allocate out through the real-time imbalance energy offset. Because I am now accounting for all the congestion offset in both before and after, it does not impact the real-time imbalance energy offset. The next question is going to be related to, is there going to be any system changes related to this? There is no changes expected for OASIS or CMRI. Master file obviously will need to be updated to associate the ETSRs to relevant scheduling point tie, and settlements will be modified to reflect that mapping of that new scheduling point tie pricing, as well as we will add or enhance our real-time congestion offset calculation to incorporate the base ETSR congestion component. There was another question regarding the long-term solution in relationship to the short-term solution. The main difference between a long-term solution and a short-term solution is, one, is where the power balance constraint pricing or dollars are going to materialize. This one, with the long-term solution, it's going to be in the energy component of that BAA. Under the short-term solution, we're still keeping the fact that it's in the congestion component of the BAA and not the energy component. Can people still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just got a link that someone said they lost my audio. So other than that, the short-term solution is just a stepping stone to the long-term solution. And then the last question was, can I provide more numerical example of the settlement? Now, what I did was I used that current slides that George and I have been presenting regarding how the proposed solution to it. But then what I did is when I provided an example, I enhanced what I had previously provided to show how the current solution is being handled versus what it was. This is what it's currently doing. And then under the proposal, this is how it will materialize with the short-term solution. I did this for example 1 and example 2 that I presented at the EIM quarterly meeting. I'll let you guys review these if you want. And since we're about to run out of time, I'm going to open it up for any questions. And I will provide these slides to you. Again, I did it last night, so I apologize for the last minute slides.
Again, pressing pound 2 on your telephone keypad will indicate a question. We are not seeing any questions on the call line currently.
Okay. So if for the last minute, what I wanted to do is just take that first example. So under the current settlement, that 50-50 pricing is driving us to calculate a total real-time congestion within BAA4 of $25,000 payment, a $25,000 charge in BAA5. But when we do the congestion offset, where we apply the marginal cost of congestion, all of that congestion goes into BA2. It's a net value of 0, but when it comes to this particular setup, it looks like the BAA5 is paying for BAA4's congestion associated with base ETSRs. And this is one of the things we're trying to resolve. In the second example, it's the export is end up paying for the congestion. So the third-party person who's wheeling through will pay for the congestion that has to be allocated to everybody else. So it pays for the $25,000 in BA2 as well as $25,000 within its own balancing authority area. I know that was real fast. I'm expecting you guys, once I send it out to you, to review it. And I do expect you to have some additional questions, so feel free to send those questions to myself or to Steve Castanelli. And then I'm going to wrap this up since we're at the timeline of the meeting. But I'm going to leave it one last second for any questions.
Not seeing any questions.
Again, I apologize for rushing through this particular set of slides. I apologize for not getting them out earlier. I just had to have some meetings internally in order to provide you all the answers. So the next steps are I will have these slides posted, and then as Steve talked about in the very beginning of this meeting is we will have a setting to have up a Q3 meeting. He will reach out to all the settlements people and asking if there's any specific questions or topics you want to discuss. If we don't receive any topics, we will probably cancel that meeting and carry it over into the Q4, and we'll keep doing this type of arrangement. But if this meeting is not providing you with any real value, please let us know. And please let us know how we can enhance this meeting to provide you with more value. And then I'm going to hand it over to Jimmy to close out the meeting.
Thanks, James. And thanks, Rahul, Uma, Steve, of course, and everybody for your participation and engagement, especially given the current events out there. So as mentioned, this is recorded. We usually get the recording from our vendor within 2 to 3 business days. So we'll look to make that available on the team site, as Steve mentioned earlier. And with that, once more, we appreciate your participation and have a great rest of your day.
And that concludes our conference. Thank you for using AT&T Event Conferencing Enhanced. You may now disconnect. Thank you.